Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video, I talk about my 5 favorite books of 2025, and I talk about my 4 most disappointing books of 2025. I'm going to give my favorite books in reverse order. The 5th book is The Will of the Many by James Islington. In the world of this book, there's something called will, which is kind of a life force. And at the bottom, society is set up as like a pyramid scheme. At the bottom are the octavi. They give their, I believe it's half of their will to the next level, which I think is the septimi. And that goes on and on to the top. The octavi don't really gain anything from it, they lose, but at each successive level, the person who gets the will gets more and more powerful because they're getting will from more and more people. Will basically runs society. The book stars Vis, who was orphaned early in the book, and he is hiding his true identity. Early in the book, Vis is adopted by Aldous, who is a powerful senator. He adopted Vis to get Vis sent to a school where the children of the powerful go to train, and they earn their place. There's various levels at the school, and the children, depending upon which level they reach, that determines where they are going to be placed in the government. This is a very impressive world building in this book. Vis as a character is interesting. The interaction with other characters is interesting. There's a lot of subterfuge and a lot of various factions vying for power. Just a very impressive book. Considered fantasy, and it is. I think it's also should be considered sci-fi too. My 4th favorite book is Atmosphere by Jenkins Reid. As the story begins, there's a space shuttle mission and something has gone very wrong in that mission. Then the book goes back in time to around 1980. Joan Goodwin is an astrophysicist working at a college, but NASA announces that they're going to allow women to train to become astronauts. Joan applies. She doesn't get accepted to the first class. She gets accepted to the second class. The story talks about the training it takes to become an astronaut. It talks about the things that women had to deal with breaking into a field that was all men before then. There's a forbidden relationship. Jenkins Reid does a great job researching the space shuttle program, astronaut training, NASA. Very impressive job. I know some people think such details are too much, but I was very impressed by the effort she put in to do that. This book was one of 2 5-star Jenkins Reid's books that I read in 2025. The first being The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Those 2 books cemented Jenkins Reid as someone who I want to read all their books. Should have mentioned at the beginning of this video that the reason I'm doing a top 5 instead of a top 10 is I only read 47 books this year, so I didn't think that doing a top 10 statistically would make sense, because that would mean I'm picking over 20% of the books I read. My 3rd book is Gorgeous Gruesome Faces by Cheng. At the beginning of this book, Sunny Lee is estranged from her former best friend Candace. They were part of 3 young women who were in a K-drama and a K-pop group based in the US. But there was a scandal, and the 3rd member died under mysterious circumstances. there is an opportunity for a new show in Atlanta, and Sonny and Candace both apply. They get accepted. It's I guess similar to the training schools that they do in. They're both accepted, and some very strange things go on there. This book is part horror, some body horror. There is some supernatural elements thrown in. It's about friends who fall apart and try to reconnect. It's a debut from the author and a very impressive one. My second book is Bunny by Mona Awad. This is a book I had for a while, wanted to read, but just didn't, and I finally got around to it. At the beginning of this book, Samantha is going into her second year in an MFA program in a prestigious New England school, New England college. She is in this program with 4 other young women who call themselves Bunny. Frequently just refer to themselves as Bunny, as in I love you, Bunny, I love you, Bunny. And Samantha both is repelled by the bunnies, but also wants to be a part of them. And eventually she is invited to something they call the Smut Salon. This book's a little hard to describe, but it does go in some very weird directions, and I really loved it. It lived up to the hype. I maybe didn't think it was quite as weird as some people have described it, but it is definitely a very weird book, and I just loved it. And my favorite book of 2025 is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Like Bunny, this is a book I've had for a while and didn't get around to reading, but I finally did. In the world of the book, there are humans, vampires, and wares, short for werewolf, but they just refer to as wares. They have kind of a fragile peace. The story is told in the first person by Misery. She is the daughter of the most powerful vampire. When she was 8, she was sent to the human realm as collateral, and a human of powerful parents was sent to the vampire realm. If the vampires did something serious enough, the humans would kill Misery, and vice versa for the human collateral. When Misery's collateral period ends, she decides to stay in the human realm in disguise. She goes to college. She gets a job afterwards. It does seem like the humans at her job knew she was a vampire. She's called back to the vampire realm by her father. He wants her to marry the alpha in one of the were regions. Misery accepts. She has her reasons for doing so. There's something she wants to find out. The were alpha is low, and normally when I read into the night, I hit 10:30. My mind starts to drift. I have trouble concentrating. There's 3 different days that I read well past the time I normally go to sleep. This book I just didn't want to put it down. This book was just very entertaining to me. I love the development of Misery and Lo's relationship. I thought there was good world building. This is a book that is not meant to be taken super seriously. It was just entertaining, and it entertained me. I know there are those that would blanch at someone putting this book over some of the books that I also included in my top 5, but this was the most entertaining book for me. This was the one that I just wanted to keep reading the most. So that's why it's my top book. Now my 4 most disappointing books. I don't want to say worst books like some people do when they give their list, because these books aren't bad books. It's just my view of them. As with my favorite books, I'm going to list them in reverse order of how much they disappointed me. My 4th most disappointing book is Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. This was a book club pick, so in some ways it's unfair to call it disappointing because I didn't pick it. This school is set in the early 1900s at a boarding school in Australia. And early in the book there is a picnic, and 3 of the students, girls at the school, it's just a girls only school, they disappear. And I wasn't crazy about the characters, and also wasn't crazy about the ending. I didn't think like the story leading into the ending truly predicted the ending, and also the ending didn't really resolve everything. There was a later chapter available for free, I think, on Kindle Unlimited. I read that explained it a little more, but that wasn't part of the book. That wasn't actually part of Picnic at Hanging Rock. This is a beloved classic. It's just that I think it was just kind of me and the book weren't totally meshing. I still rated it 3 stars. It was still a worthwhile read, but disappointing to me. The third book is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This was another book club pick. I think the biggest problem I have with this book is that some of the things that the main character did were very upsetting to me. And the book came out in the 1920s, and I'm reading 100 years later, but they were just very upsetting to me. So I think I was put off him at that point. And I guess maybe I was expecting a book more like 1984, and for me this really wasn't that. Another 3-star read, but in a beloved classic, but just one that just didn't mesh with me. The second book is Tale of the Body Thief by Anne Rice. This was a reread for me, another book I read as part of a book club. The reason it was a little disappointing for me was that I found myself struggling to concentrate sometimes, and maybe it was the time I was reading. As I said earlier, sometimes at 10:30 I started to struggle, but I was struggling to continue. But maybe mostly, more importantly, is that this is the 4th book in the Vampire Chronicles, which is the story of Lestat, at least so far in the first 5 books. And the first book wasn't only Lestat, but the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th were Lestat, main character. And 2 things he did in this book that caused me to think less of him as a character. One is he essayed someone. The other thing is that he turned someone against their will, which is kind of in a way like essay. And those 2 things just made me think less of him as a character. And I should say, too, that I read the 5th book, Memnoch the Devil, before I read Tale of the Body Thief, just because it was available to me before Tale of the Body Thief. I did rate Tale of the Body Thief 3.5 stars, so it's disappointing to me, but certainly not a bad book. And my number 1 most disappointing book is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. I had previously read her I Kissed Shara Wheeler, and I really loved it. And it wouldn't be totally fair for me to expect this book to be exactly like I Kissed Shara Wheeler, because I Kissed Shara Wheeler was a YA book. This is an adult book. But I was expecting to love it. And this is by no means a bad book. It's another issue of compatibility. In this book we have two characters. They were friends, they had a falling out. A few years later they're both on a tour together and trying to reconnect. But biggest problem I had with this book was that they eat a lot of restaurants with gourmet food. They drink a lot of fine wine, and it's really talked about in depth in the book. And I'm a pedestrian eater, and I don't really drink alcohol, so all those details were kind of tedious for me. But if you love gourmet food, you love fine wine, you will love those details. Another thing is that the two characters, they make a bet to see who can hook up with the most people, and to me that's just not a great bet to make. There's a certain risks there, and I just didn't agree with that choice. So, no, by no means a bad book, just that some of the stuff in it just wasn't for me. Mainly the food and wine stuff just wasn't for me. I am definitely going to continue reading her. I have her two other adult books still to read, and hopefully I'll like them better. I would be interested in hearing whether or not you read any of the books that I've talked about here, whether you liked them, whether you didn't like them, what your favorite and or least favorite books were for 2025. If you'd like to let me know, please reply in the comments. If there isn't anything else you'd like to comment, please add an emoji of your choice. Not going to pick one because I'm just talking about a whole bunch of books, but please add an emoji of your choice. If you want to select one based upon the books I picked, that's fine. Hope you're having a wonderful reading week. I hope you're having a wonderful week in general. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos.